I'm gonna turn to my boy over there, looking extra serious, super serial.
Y'all got to tell
Johnny.
You got to tell me
I'm
about what
ready
happened
for
with these
some
games,
more
man.
mediocrity, man.
All right, he's ready to. You want to rush? Okay, we're about to talk about PAX East 2018, the gaming convention that just came through here, right in sunny Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah, it actually snowed on the first day, so it was really interesting seeing those crowds just lined up, close to 1,000 people, just parked outside the World Trade Center, and it's a nice,
World Trade Center?
Yeah.
Not the BCEC?
Isn't that the World Trade?
No.
Oh, okay.
World Trade's across the street.
It's across the street.
Next to the
It's the Boston Convention Center.
That's the BCEC. No, the World Trade Center is across the street.
God dang it. Well,
it's all good.
That place right here in Boston, Mass. On Summer Street. That's as accurate as I'm about to get right now. But all these people waiting outside, and security did have their game, and they had learned from their mistakes last year. Yeah. Nice. So there was more organization, and people did get in faster. But still, a lot of folks, they weren't prepared for the Boston weather. I think it was a lot of wind chill that morning, the first morning, and then started snowing on the crowd. So that was like a nice way to usher folks in. But once we got inside the doors, the place was running much more smoothly than last year. I'll say that at the start, and I got to see a lot of cool stuff. Johnny, actually didn't run into you the entire weekend.
I saw you out of the corner of my eye while I was talking to another dev, so I couldn't say what's up.
You sure it was me? Wasn't one of the other black guys?
It was you. Lantern? You had this lady following you around.
Yeah. Sounds like me.
Yeah,
the ladies.
It was like 2 or 3. You might have noticed it.
Yeah. They were holding me by the dread. I didn't even let them touch me.
Call me the big Pat Boski.
It was big as usual. Just a whole lot going on. They amped up pretty much everything. It seemed like there was even more indie games there to show off, more esports games and esports competitions and things like that going on.
Well, that's become a gripe for me because it's always been congested on the floors, and that's to be expected. It's a convention, but I think they haven't learned from criticism of previous years where folks cannot navigate that first part of the convention hall. You come down the escalators or the stairs right from the entrance, and it's nothing but like a wall of people. Doesn't matter which day it is. Doesn't matter if it's like this towards the start or towards the end of the convention day. When you're on the vendor floor, it's just a wall of people. The heat hits you in the face, and you cannot navigate. It takes like all of 5 minutes to go 20 feet before you can actually reach the rest of the booth. And I think that actually hurts a lot of the presence of a lot of the smaller houses, a lot more of the indie booths, etc. Because people are there for competition. And that's well and good. This is the place for it. The problem is, don't have that on the floor. There's an entire convention hall at your disposal. There's rooms upstairs that go unused because they'll have like panels on one floor, the game rooms on a second floor, and then there's a third floor that just goes like it's mostly vacant. And there's like, well, this is a panel room that's not being used, and another one's not being used. So you go down to the end, and there's one panel way at the far corridor. It's like, well, why not use all this space for the arenas that you've got set up on the convention floor, and open it up so that folks that are actually there to check out new games, to buy products from these vendors that pay a lot of money to be there, to actually take part and make it a more fluid experience for them. You don't have to lose any stuff, is what I'm getting at. You can reposition.
I mean, from a consumer's perspective, mind you, only went last year. I didn't get a chance to make it this year. If I was looking for, I'm trying to go to the place where everything is. Yeah. So I hear you 100%. But if I went to go see a developer who's like, hey, man, we're gonna have a competition upstairs on the 3rd floor, I'm like, I ain't going. I mean, you're gonna say I'm not gonna go,
bro. You gonna tell me that you go down to the Overwatch booth and they say, yo, they're playing Overwatch. They got a competition upstairs where you're not just you can watch without having to be in this in the aisle where folks are pushing you, constantly trying to get by, in your face, right behind you, touching you and stuff, trying to make room.
I'm gonna say
people
no.
Posing for pictures right next to you. All you have to do is go upstairs where there's seats available, there's larger screen, all that's there for you in the experience. You're gonna tell me that still wouldn't be appealing?
Correct. Why? Because everything's around me still. Because while I'm watching Overwatch, and if I start dozing off or spacing out a little bit, and I look over, I'm like, oh, there's a Nintendo Switch booth. I could go over there real quick, look at lines move real fast, and go over there and play Mario Kart real quick. Then I'll just get up and walk out. If not, I am blocking myself. I'm dedicating myself only to that one game, only to that one segment upstairs, all on the 3rd floor. Whereas versus I still have everything around me at my disposal.
Yeah, more options.
More options. I hear you, P.
Well, Johnny, you're in the same camp.
It didn't bother me at all, but I mostly stood in the indie section, and they kind of speckled it about, I guess, a bit more because in the prior years they had all the big companies right at the very front, and it seemed like at the very front the big companies were still there, but along the outsides of that they had a lot of indie games, and I'm talking like really indie games, stuff that you wouldn't expect to be that high up, that close to the escalator, the main escalators and stuff like that.
That's a new thing they did, but here's the problem with that. Anyone who's like I won't say a PAX veteran, but has been to the convention in years prior. I had an interview scheduled at one of those booths. If I didn't, I wouldn't have gone up there like at all, because you just got that Pavlovian response over time to know this is the area you have to get through to see a lot of the stuff that you can actually access and most of the stuff that you want, because this is where those big arena games are showing. This is also where Markiplier's having a couch interview that 100 people are watching, surrounding this booth and bleeding into the aisles that you just have to go through.
Sure.
So it's like that whole area I've come to know is not a place for content. So the fact that they're just speckling around that's good, but it still could be better.
Well, I guess, but as far as I'm concerned, the layout wasn't that big of a deal for someone who's just interested. For me, I was just interested in covering as many of the indie games as I could, and I thought the layout was perfectly fine. They seem to put most of the memorabilia / merch stuff on the south side of the building, or on the right hand side if you're looking at the entrance.
That's another thing they did too. Normally that stuff is available upstairs, just before you enter the vendor floor, which is good.
Oh, so you mean like the PAX? You talking about the PAX merch?
Yeah.
Oh.
All that's available now on the floor, and they have a larger area for it, so you can sell more stuff. It makes for more fluid lines, and it's just better for anyone who wants to pick that stuff up without worrying. Well, they only have one long table for that, and they're most likely going to run out before I get there. It's like, no, it was available there, and they kept replenishing the entire weekend.
Yeah, because of that, I didn't spend pretty much any time. I walked through the right-hand side of the entire building and convention, but knowing that there was no games there for me that I wanted to check out, I pretty much stood to the left side, mostly the left side. I covered almost the entirety of the main hall area, but I didn't, I went to the right-hand side only when I was absolutely required to go to the right-hand side. So layout, it was fine for me.
I see all those games you got in front of you, all those cards.
Yeah.
Give me a game that stood out.
Yeah.
All right. So, of the indie games, there was one called Renane. It's, sorry to say, but it looks like a darker Shovel Knight, but it's a faster pace, more action-y type of platforming. From what I can get from it, it looks incredible. It's locally developed here in the greater Boston area. I talked to the dev, awesome guy. They're running a Kickstarter right now. The game is called Renane. It's very impressive looking, and if you're a fan of Shovel Knight or pixel art games like that, this is definitely one to look at. They did this unique thing with their art style where no colored pixels are touching one another. Everything has a black border around it. So
it segregated mess is this? Yo, gotta keep the colors separated. What?
So it makes the whole game, the whole world, just look darker because of that choice, that art style choice.
All right. Well, I got to check out a cool game called The Church in the Darkness. The concept of this seemed really tight to me because it's a game where you're infiltrating this church that sets up, quote unquote, church, because no one really knows anything about it, but you get a letter from your mother saying that you just came back from college and your brother's gone missing, and the only details she has are a postcard from this church implying that maybe he's gone there. You don't know what they're about. They're very secretive, and your goal is to infiltrate and see what's going on. And I'm like, yo, this sounds crazy. Let me check this out. And actually talking to the guy, I got an interview which we'll post later on, but talking to the guy, it seemed kind of cool where it's like, you don't know what this church is about, and the entire game plays out according to your actions. So you can go in and purely going on a purely espionage tip, and you're just like hiding in places. You're picking up clues and stealing documents, taking notes, and choking people out and stuff. And you can do that, and the game will respond accordingly. Or you can also infiltrate and join the cult and find out what's going on from the inside, and opt to take them out or opt to join them. You can also go in just like pick up find a gun, go in shooting people. You can go in guns blazing. It's like you have various ways to approach the situation. Yeah, and the way you approach the gameplay depends on what decides whether or not you are the hero or the villain of the game. I thought that was actually pretty cool. The problem is playing this sucker. It's very it's got a few kinks to work out, and it was kind of tedious. I'm like, he's describing all this cool stuff, and I'm seeing like this really nice animation. It's top down, which I think may have been a little detrimental because everything looked beautiful, but it looked beautiful from a distance. And I'm like, I'm playing this game. I want to get closer. I want to go to first person and see around the corner and things. And I think it's just got some work to do in the actual play out, but conceptually, it seemed really fun. It was called The Church in the Darkness.
There was another game I checked out called Beacon. Mm-hmm. It's a sci-fi action roguelike game.
I love those roguelikes, man.
Yeah, this one's so it's all in 3D, so it's not like a pixel art game, but the 3D elements of it is very geometric. Almost everything is made in triangles and pretty much no texturing. Everything's done through just light shaders, it seems like. And it looks because of that, the colors really pop and stand out. And the sci-fi element is you're playing as this character that crash lands on this weird alien planet, and the levels you're going through, it's very much kind of like Diablo style, where it's randomized and the enemies are randomly generated, level layout and stuff like that, and you're going through it and you're trying to survive, and roguelike, so permadeath and stuff like that. So I played a bit of it. It's still on the early stages. There's definitely still bugs in there, but it's definitely worth checking out. There's some promise there in that one.
Cool. I played a game called Just Shapes and Beats. And it's the game where it's just shapes and beats. It's kind of set up like Asteroids, where you and three of the players can take a shape of your own. One of you is a hexagon, one of you is a triangle, one of you is a square, and you all are in this void where every time there's a beat, it's like a music game. Anytime there's a beat, some like laser beam fires in from off screen, and you just gotta like avoid getting hit this whole time. And if you are hit, then your shape disappears. I think it's like 2 hits, but your shape disappears and you become like this ghost that's basically waiting for a medic as you gradually float off screen. If you float off screen, you're dead. If one of the other shapes comes and touches you, then you're back to life, and it's just shapes and beats again, which sounded like fun conceptually. Once I got in the game, it's a multiplayer game. There is no single player, and I was roaming by myself at the time. So this dude said, "Okay, well, we'll find you some friends." He got a bunch of like really young. I'm guessing at the oldest they were like high school freshmen. Sat me down with these kids who all knew each other, and they just there talking smack to me the whole time. Oh, you dead again, old man? Come on, yo. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend it past like a 2-minute experience.
Wow. Gotcha. There was this game I checked out called Debris. It already released late last year, and they are just kind of showing off more of it. It's this first-person exploration kind of walking simulator, but instead of walking, you're swimming. So it takes place in the Antarctic Ocean environment, where this meteorite sort of crashed into there and sort of irradiated the underwater sea life that's underneath there and sort of caused the creatures over there to mutate. So as you're going through, disaster strikes, and now you're trying to recover back, find the rest of your team. You're kind of stuck between walls of ice that are kind of closing in, and you're sort of following this little squid droid thing.
You always want Squid Droid.
Yeah, and there's banter between you and your other, I guess, scuba mate or whatever, and there's some banter and stuff like that. Things that you kind of expect from a walking simulator. I wasn't when I was playing it, it was clear to me that there was still work left to be done in this. But then I talked to the dev, and it turns out that they already released the game.
Oh, well,
so but they've been working on it since release. So it's certainly a better game since it came out. It's interesting. It's not my style of game, but you play it. I was playing it, and I could tell that effort went into it. But if you're a fan of walking simulators, this is probably something cool to check out.
All right. We're almost out of time, so the last thing I'll mention is Wormhole Wars, the game that everyone really wanted to play, and I got to check out because it's a cross between Halo and Portal, and it seemed really cool conceptually. It's a game where you're essentially in a Halo environment where you're in an arena battle with other characters, and your units are like Master Chief. You've got the armor, you've got your guns, and everyone also has the ability to fire portals, which take them to different areas in the map, just like in the game Portal, which is cool. I thought it was an interesting mechanic. The problem is the fun of the game, after experiencing it for myself, depends heavily on who you're playing with. And lucky me, I got to sit down and play against like 3 professional YouTubers because they're like, "Oh, you're press? Well, good. We have a demo going on here for some professional YouTubers. Here, sit down. You're all kindred, right?" And I'm like, I don't want to play against cats who do this for a living. That's they set me up against a cat. And shout out to Hip Hop Gamer, who was nice enough to whoop my ass and talk smack the whole time. Also a special experience sitting there and getting to hear cats criticize my suck ass gameplay right off screen there.
What was your favorite game? Your pick of the show?
My favorite was actually The Descenders. No. My favorite was actually a game called The Descenders.
The downhill racing bike game?
It's just a downhill bike game. That's all it was. And we got to see several other titles, and we'll post those on the website later on this week, so keep an eye out for that.
Just real quick, my pick is a game called Exception. It's basically N+, but there's 3D elements in it, and as you complete a level, it sort of like does this weird 3D rotation thing. It's a wild, fast-paced game. It's also very action-oriented. You have like this weird beam sword katana-y thing, and you're bouncing off of walls, and you're killing enemies, you're deflecting bullets, all the while you're not stopping, and you're constantly running. It's kind of like Sonic meets N+ meets Ninja Gaiden. It's really cool. Yeah, it's really good precision-based platforming, but on crack.
All right, so it was PAX East 2018. They've vastly stepped their game up, I think, in organization of the actual security and flow of crowds through the main area. I still think there's some work to do on the floor and reordering that needs to be done with the arenas, but otherwise, it was a real good experience. I'd recommend cats check out the next event. PAX East 2019 should be the shiz.
Yeah.
Johnny?
Yeah, I had a blast. It was really good.
All right. I guess thumbs up from both of us. All right. This has been the Geek Down here on WEMF Radio. I want to thank you all for joining us for another awesome night. First of all, I want to thank Jam the Thriller Priest.
Peace.